1945. The Reich collapses. 8 descendants wake up with last names that just echoed through the Nuremberg verdicts. What do you do when your surname is a certified war crime? Welcome to Dark Chronicles. Today we're tracking 8 people who inherited the wreckage of Nazi power. No gray zones, just documented choices. Some destroyed their own bloodlines, others defended the indefensible. Let's start with the loudest voice in the room, a son who put his father back on trial. 1939, Hans Frank, Hitler's lawyer, becomes Governor General of the General Government in occupied Poland, 1939 to 1945. His office issues decrees that establish ghettos, seize Jewish property, and align courts and police with occupation policy, enabling deportations. In 1946, the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg convicts him of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He is executed on the 16th of October, 1946. Niklas Frank, born the 9th of March, 1939, grows up with that record as family history. At 7, he learns his father has been executed. As an adult, he chooses the archive over silence. In 1987, he publishes Der Vater, eine Abrechnung, My Father, a Reckoning, built from the papers of his father's office, decrees, letters, minutes. As a journalist at Stern and a regular speaker in German schools, he repeats one line in interviews and in What Our Fathers Did, 2015. My father was politically responsible for every killing in Poland. No myth-making, no plea, just the chain from office to outcome. His approach stays constant. Keep the documents public and say what they record. Amon Göth takes command of the Płaszów camp near Krakow in 1943. Under his watch, the camp expands from forced labor site to killing ground. Survivors document shootings from his villa balcony, beatings, and selections tied to the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto. The paperwork shows arrests, confiscations, and transports pushed out of the district command. In 1946, a Polish court convicts him of war crimes. He is executed in Krakow on 13 September. The name Göth leaves the file but stays in the public record. Monika Hertwig is born in late 1945. For years she hears a domestic version of her father, misunderstood soldier, not a criminal. As an adult she reads the record and finds a different story. In Inheritance, 2006, she returns to the former villa and meets Helen Jonas Rosenzweig, once forced to work there. The conversation is careful, then raw. Monika later describes the moment as, "The carpet pulled from under my feet." From then on, her public position is straightforward. Acknowledge the evidence, name the crimes, and separate family memory from the archive. When asked what she wants from the past, she answers with documents, not excuses. The choice is neither spectacle nor defense. It is to state the record and leave it intact. 1935 to 45. Hermine Guring serves as Reichsmarshal and head of the Luftwaffe, chairs the 4-year plan, and oversees large-scale theft of art across occupied Europe. His name appears on decrees that expand the regime's economic and police powers, and on correspondence tying resources to the war effort. At Nuremberg, he is convicted. On the night before his scheduled execution in October 1946, he takes cyanide in his cell. The legal chapter ends there. The surname continues on, family papers issued long after the trial. Patina Guring, born 1962, is his great-niece. As an adult, she chose sterilization and later spoke about that decision in a 2006 interview, framing it as a personal end to the line rather than a theory about inheritance. She moved to the United States, lived for years in New Mexico, and discussed her choice again in the 2011 documentary Hitler's Children. Publicly, her position is consistent. Name the record, close the family branch, and warn that political slogans recur if they are not confronted. The gesture is simple and irreversible. She presents it without drama. In her telling, the most practical way to separate a life from a notorious name was to make sure the name would not continue through her descendants. Before we go further, I've made 2 full docs on Nazi descendants: Gudrun Himmler, Bettina Guring, Rolf Mengele, Martin Bormann Jr., and Hitler's daughter. Links are in the description. 1939 to 44. Otto Von Vector serves first as Nazi governor of Krakow, then as governor of the District of Galicia after Germany seizes eastern Polish territory from the Soviets. His administration issues orders that restructure local policing and civil courts, manage confiscations, and facilitate deportations from cities such as Lemberg, Lviv. Witness testimony and surviving paperwork place his office inside the apparatus that cleared ghettos and fed transports. In 1949, he dies in Rome while evading prosecution. Horst Von Vector, born 1939, builds his public life around the family archive. He maintains that his father resisted anti-Semitism and tried to help individuals where he could. He has donated copies of letters and files to institutions, appears in the 2015 film What Our Fathers Did, a Nazi legacy, and engages with Philippe Sands' investigations, later published as The Rat Line. His line is steady: mistrust Soviet-era documents, emphasize private letters, and argue intent over outcome. Historians reply with German-issued orders and transport tallies that fix responsibility at the level of the governor's desk. Horst does not dispute the signatures exist, he disputes what they mean. His choice is to defend a parent's record against the weight of the administrative one. May 1940–43. Rudolph Husse serves as commandant of Auschwitz. His administration expands the camp complex, restructures prisoner labor, and oversees transports that feed the killing infrastructure at Birkenau. In 1946, he testifies at the International Military Tribunal. A Polish court later convicts him of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He is executed at Auschwitz on April 16, 1947. The record ties his office directly to planning, construction, and operation of a core site of the Holocaust. Rainer Höss, born 1965, grows up with that name and chooses public confrontation over private distance. By 2010, he is speaking in schools. In 2011, he appears in Hitler's Children. In 2013, he publishes a memoir about carrying the surname of Auschwitz's commandant. His line is consistent in interviews: acknowledge the record, warn against denial, and use his visibility to reach students. The arc, however, does not stay simple. In December 2020, a Stuttgart court convicts him of fraud tied to funds for remembrance work. He receives a suspended sentence. Supporters point to years of outreach. Critics say the conviction undercuts the message. The facts are these: a decade of anti-extremism advocacy followed by a court case that complicates how the advocacy is received. 1933–41. Rudolph Hess serves as deputy Führer and senior party official. On 10th May 1941, he flies solo to Scotland, is imprisoned, and after the war receives a life sentence at Nuremberg. He becomes the last inmate of Spandau prison. On 17th August 1987, he is found dead. The official ruling is suicide. The historical record on his role in the regime and on the sentence is clear. Debate begins over the circumstances of his death. Wolf Rüdiger Hess, born 1937, builds his public life around that debate. In 1986, he publishes My Father, Rudolph Hess, and, after his father's death, Who Murdered My Father? Rudolph Hess, 1988. He argues homicide. A frail nonagenarian, a small garden hut, rope marks, he says, do not match self-suspension. For decades, he repeats the claim in interviews and books, calling the suicide verdict a cover-up and pointing to Cold War motives. Forensic reviews and official inquiries uphold suicide and do not endorse murder. Wolf Rüdiger keeps the counter-thesis until his death in 2001. The choice he makes is to center the family's story on cause of death, rather than on his father's position in the regime, contesting the verdict on the final chapter while the rest of the file stands. 1934–45. Albert Speer Sr. moves from Hitler's chief architect to Minister of Armaments and War Production. His office streamlines construction, labor, and logistics for a total war economy, while monuments rebrand power as stone. In 1946, the Nuremberg Tribunal convicts him of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He receives 20 years in Spandau, is released in 1966, and dies in 1981. The public file on the father is fixed, architecture scaled to a regime, then a sentence that outlasts it. Albert Speer, Jr., born 29th. July 1934, chooses cities over monuments. In the 1960s, he sets up an office in Frankfurt and spends the next 5 decades on urban plans: housing, transport, shade, bike lanes, rather than spectacle. His firm works on the master plan for Expo 2000 in Hanover and later contributes to Gulf megaprojects, including the framework that helped deliver Qatar's 2022 World Cup bid. Asked about the surname, he answers, "I have tried my whole life to distance myself. It is as it is." He keeps the comment short and the drawings long. He dies in 2017 at 83. The pattern he leaves is consistent. Use planning to define a professional identity. Acknowledge the shadow, and let built work carry the rest. 1929 to 45. Heinrich Himmler rises to Reichsführer SS, builds a security apparatus that fuses police, intelligence, and camp administration, and signs off on policies that enable mass deportation and murder across occupied Europe. The paper trail is dense: orders, budgets, travel notes, and ends with flight, capture, and suicide in 1945. The name stays in archives and school books long after the war. Katrin Himmler, born 1967, approaches that name as a research problem. She studies political science, collects family letters, and maps how the broader Himmler clan moved through the regime's institutions: jobs, contracts, housing, and quiet post-war networks. In 2005, she publishes Die Brüder Himmler, The Himmler Brothers, 2007 in English, placing private correspondence alongside official files to show how ideology threaded through ordinary family life. The reception is split inside her own family. Some relatives cut contact, others accept the record. Her public line stays steady: do not claim inherited guilt, do not protect myths, document what happened and make the documents readable. She appears in contemporary discussions and documentaries when the source base matters, not as a confessor, but as a custodian of the file. The choice is explicit: treat the surname as an archive and open it. Rejection, confrontation, sterilization, denial, activism, conspiracy, redirection, documentation. 8 strategies orbiting the same gravitational pull. A name the world refuses to forget. If your surname sat in a war crime verdict, what would you do? Erase it, defend it, or publish every last letter? History printed the headline. These 8 wrote the footnotes. Your turn to choose the margin note.